Hello, you're watching Talk of the Town. I'm Jessa Jeremiah, and today I get to interview a very familiar face to WHHI-TV. You may have been watching as we have interviewed all of the hosts here on our station so you can get to know them a little bit better behind the scenes. Lisa Richardson is up next. I always say you're all such good sports for letting me turn the tables on you. Hi.
Hi, and it's so true. It is awkward being on the opposite side.
It's a taste of your own medicine, right?
Exactly. It does make you a little nervous.
Yeah, it does. It does. But you know what? This is fun because we get to learn a little bit about you. You're always asking the questions. But you know, we're going to talk a little bit about your career and your role with WHHI-TV. But first, let's kind of dive into the more life stuff. You know, what's your most important role?
That's the fun stuff. So I have just been blessed with a great family. I have 3 teenage girls, young adults now, and a wonderful husband. And I feel like our first role before we really focus on careers and all that is to be a mom, is to be that parent that's there for your kids. And so I've been blessed to be able to do that and then kind of work in all the work and career stuff, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and you know what's nice about the role that you've played as a mother, which is a very important role, is you know that shows on TV. That sort of kind, warm spirit that you have really comes through. And you've of course been part of the WHHI team for many years now. Let's talk a little bit about you know how you got started. You're hosting a show. You've really integrated into some other areas, but what got you here at first?
Well, as a little girl, I always had that interest in TV. I always would watch the news and see, back then Barbara Walters, that's dating myself, and I said, I want to do that someday. So I actually went to college with that dream and that passion and decided, well, maybe I better take a more practical route, and then I switched up, and then life happens from there, and things go on, and then you get into other things, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and it is kind of funny how life just sort of takes this turn, and all wonderful turns. You know, things happen that you've been blessed with along the way, but here you are getting to sort of live out this dream that you had since you were young.
Well, 2 things. They always say if you love what you do, you don't ever work a day in your life, right? And that's how I felt. Actually, have 2 different paths. So as I was mentioning, you know, when my girls were young and I stayed home and did the stay-at-home mom role, and I would never trade that. That was such a well-invested time. Then I started getting into something I never expected, and that is in ministry. I got real involved with our church and all of that. Ended up being a children's director. I'm like, who would have ever thought that for myself? And then later with a national ministry with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which I'm still doing now. But all the while, then I started watching the show and the station, and I thought, you know what? I can do that, and I still want to do that. So I literally came down here one day and talked to Wayne Morris and kind of went from there.
Isn't that fun how, you know, every person that has wound up in this building, whether it be in an on-air capacity or otherwise, you know, how all has this great story of how that got started, and how great that we work for a TV station where you can just walk in the door and say, hey, here I am. What do you have for me?
And I realize now, you know, back when at those time as a younger person, I realize now that, you know, I wasn't meant to share some of the mainstream media news, the news reports that you see on, you know, crime reports and all that. Like, I want to share the good news, right? So that's why I love our station.
Yeah.
It's community-based, it's oriented, it's all positive. And that really is such an uplifting thing to be able to do.
And speaking of positive, we get to announce today that you are taking on a bigger role with WHHI. You've lived in this community for 25 years. You're well connected, and that's one of the reasons we're so excited to have you doing this. So let's talk about 2022 and what's coming next.
Yes, and again, this is just looking back in the rearview mirror. You can see how all the timing was just perfectly put together to bring me to here. So I came and started hosting a show about 6 years ago now, still having this full-time job with the FCA ministry, which is a national organization, which really plugs me into our community, to our schools. And through that, I started to incorporate some back and forth, bring some of those stories from the sports to the show and the station, and then just really started to learn some of the behind the scenes, and I started to love it. And then you came along and just have just really brought some great energy and have all these exciting things that I'll let you share about the newscast. So I'm excited to be able to take on that role of news and program manager and also keep my other role. So again, to be able to balance both, I just can't think of a better way. And I'm just really grateful for that.
Well, you're superwoman, you're super mom, and we're lucky to have you because you do so much, and it's really a blessing. So we'll share more about that as the role unfolds. But for now, we got to go. And thank you so much, Lisa, for being here and opening up a little bit about yourself. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you. So stay tuned for more, right?
That's right. Actually, we're going to close the show and thank Robyn Zimmerman for letting me take her seat for a little bit here on Talk of the Town. We hope to see you next time on the program. Bye now.